Welcome to the basement. I am Dad, and this is Basement Dad. That is my best attempt at introducing this first video on this new channel where really my intent is just to rant, ramble, and sometimes have a more pointed conversation involving what I experience as a first time dad. And if you are also a first time dad or just a multiple time dad and want a safe place where you can come and also share, this is the spot to be. So, intro aside, really wanted to talk about the oh shit moment, that like the first moment it actually sunk in that I was going to be a dad. So if you were watching and listening to this and you also have that one single moment where you can point to and say that was when it really hit me, share it with me in the comments. But for me, it actually wasn't when we found out that we were pregnant. When we found out we were pregnant, it was right after our honeymoon, and it was actually a time where I felt like I had to be the strong one. And I say that as someone who, like, I watched my wife go through a 10-month pregnancy, which, yeah, I always thought it was just 9 months, but apparently can be 10. And then also going through birth, like, I really got to see a whole different side of her that is incredibly strong, the strongest I've ever seen anyone be. But when we first found out, it actually was coming at an interesting time where my wife had just gotten x-rays, which if you hear x-rays, you obviously can think of, potential circumstances that could go wrong where, an x-ray, you're basically zapping some very potentially harmful waves all over your body. So she was thinking, oh no, did the x-ray do something to this growing being, this very small 3 or 4 week. I mean, very, very early is when we detected the pregnancy. So she was very nervous and was also just kind of like unsure what my response would be. But I was so happy immediately. Was so excited that we were going to have a baby. Didn't know gender just yet. That's to come later. But that wasn't really the moment that it hit me that I was going to be a dad. That moment didn't come until our first ultrasound, which I think was a few weeks after that point or a couple weeks after that point. And the reason why it really hit me then was because, truthfully, and the overthinking part of my brain was really worried that the X-ray, although it was actually very unlikely it would have done anything to our baby, I was worried that it did do something to our baby, and I was worried for this fetus's life. And so I remember, seeing my wife get hooked up, and she's very nervous, and we're hopefully trying to see something on the monitor that looks like a fetus. And I just remember being so locked in on that screen to a point where I actually almost passed out. I almost passed out because of how nervous I was making myself. And just, it sounds morbid, but I was just really hoping that this baby was alive, that like there wasn't some crazy scenario where the x-ray did, um, you know, did, did do that. But thankfully, what we saw was a little, what we call to this day, a little beanadette, to kind of spoil what the gender was. But just saw this little tiny bean, and we saw the blinking, like little flashing of light, and sure enough, that was the heartbeat, and that was the moment that I felt like something was happening, that I was going to be a father, that I was going to be partially responsible for that little tiny beanadette, that little flickering to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and ultimately become a formal person being. I don't know what you would call that. Lima bean? I don't know. To come to fruition, to be born. So that was my oh shit moment, was being worried for this fetus's life long, long before it was ever born. And then, thankfully hearing, oh yeah, you see that tiny microscopic thing that actually, if you guys had come a few days earlier to this, I think it was a sonogram. I don't know if it's the same thing, but if we had went a few days earlier, it would have been too small to even register. So you can imagine the amount of stress that'd be a part of that visit if we went a few days prior and there wasn't anything to see. But thankfully there was. So that was my oh shit moment. Again, let me know in the comments what yours was, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.